The story begins in a forest somewhere in the United States, where a mining company called Teracle is trying to extract a rare oil hidden deep beneath the entire area. The company's owner, Tennyson, personally arrives at the mining site after the company's biologist, Jim, reports that something has gone wrong during the operation. Jim explains that while drilling, they discovered a massive underground water reservoir that was blocking their equipment. He also suspects there could be living organisms inside the water. Despite the warning, Tennyson orders a crew to continue drilling. When they lower a camera into the reservoir, they notice strange shapes moving in the darkness. Moments later, water suddenly bursts out under intense pressure. The explosion destroys the machinery, and several large bizarre creatures are thrown onto the ground, along with the rushing water. Everyone at the site is left shocked after seeing the strange life forms, and the workers immediately rush to capture them. The creatures are locked inside a massive containment container. However, the head of security, Mr. Burr, reveals that one of the creatures is still missing. Tennyson insists that the monster must be found immediately, because if the government learns about these foreign creatures, the entire operation could be shut down. The next day, a young man named Trip Coley is working on a new engine for his truck when he suddenly hears a strange noise coming from outside. Curious, he walks into the junkyard to investigate. As he moves between the piles of old cars, he notices that several oil containers have been torn open. Suddenly, a sack of barrels crashes to the ground, terrifying him and forcing him to run. He quickly rushes into the garage and struggles to shut the door behind him. Looking for a place to hide, he crawls into a cramped crawl space beneath the structure. A few moments later, he hears the sound of a massive creature moving overhead. Then a huge tentacle slowly pushes its way through the metal gate. Terrified, Trip Coley desperately tries to escape. Eventually, he manages to open the hatch and climb outside. Before leaving, he locks the metal door so the monster cannot get out. He immediately calls the police and reports the creature. But when the officers arrive and open the hatch, they find nothing except empty oil containers inside. Senior Officer Rick tells his partner to wait outside before angrily confronting Coley, convinced the whole thing is just a prank. In reality, Rick is Coley's stepfather, and he believes the boy deliberately called him there just to cause trouble. After Rick storms off, in frustration, Trip Coley quietly starts thinking about what he saw. The monster only seems to appear in places where there is oil. The following day, he gathers several oil containers and places them near a car crusher. Then he deliberately pours oil onto the machine, hoping to lure the creature into a trap. After that, he grabs a controller and waits nearby, expecting the creature to crawl into possession. A short while later, he notices tentacles moving behind the car crusher. Soon, a large creature slowly crawls onto the platform. It grabs an oil container and calmly lies down as it drinks. From up close, the creature does not actually seem dangerous at all. It consumes the oil as if it were honey instead of fuel. The creature does not even notice the human watching it, while Trip Coley carefully studies its behavior. But the moment Coley accidentally steps into view, the monster becomes frightened. During the confusion, the remote control slips from his hand and breaks, activating the machine. He desperately tries to fix the remote, but it no longer works. The car crusher slowly begins descending toward the helpless creature. With no other option left, Trip Coley runs forward and grabs one of the monster's massive tentacles just before the machine can crush it flat. Using all his strength, he pulls the creature to safety. Enraged and confused, the monster suddenly grabs him with one of its tentacles and lets out a powerful roar directly in his face. Coley is completely terrified. But then, the creature notices the crushed oil barrel nearby and seems to realize that he just saved its life. As Coley looks closer, he understands that the creature can barely move properly. He carefully picks up another container of oil and feeds him, hoping to earn its trust. Meanwhile, Tennyson's men arrive at the police station and begin asking whether anyone has reported anything unusual. Earlier, the sheriff had already warned his deputies to stay quiet about any strange calls that came in, but one officer interrupts everyone and explains that they had received a prank call about a large animal at the junkyard where Coley worked. At that very moment, Coley is placing the massive creature onto a palanquin so he can take it to the police station and clear his name. But when he returned with a truck, the monster had disappeared. The creature used the palanquin like a wheelchair and rolled away while chasing a dog. Coley immediately ran after it and tried to stop it by grabbing a rope, but the monster easily tossed him into the air. He slammed onto the ground, got back up and tried again, but the creature had already backed away and was heading toward the garage. Coley quickly followed it. Suddenly, a bright light appeared behind him. Two large vehicles entered the junkyard. It turned out Burke had decided to visit Coley. He asked, "Son, what exactly did you see yesterday?" Coley hid the truth and tried to protect the creature. Meanwhile, Dennis's henchmen entered the garage. Luckily, the monster wasn't visible anywhere, but Coley quickly realized the creature was hiding inside his truck. He covered up the monster's tentacles and distracted Burke by saying the noise had come from the other side of the junkyard. Then the creature accidentally started the truck and began driving toward the group. Coley immediately tried to stop it while pretending he was simply pushing the truck himself. Somehow, he managed to guide it out of the garage, but his problems were far from over because the monster refused to listen to him. Coley suddenly lost his balance and fell face first onto the ground. To make things even worse, a beautiful girl saw him lying there. She was from his college and had come to help him study. Coley quickly said, "I don't have time right now, Meredith. You should go home." Meredith replied, At least drop me off. This road is so deserted. Someone could kidnap me. At that exact moment, the monster hiding inside the truck let out a loud roar, revealing their location to the henchmen. Coley realized they were out of time. He hurried Meredith into the truck and prayed the creature would somehow get them out of there. Luckily, the monster started driving and took them far away from the men, while Coley held on to the steering wheel, pretending he was the one driving. Everything suddenly went wrong when the truck veered off the road and sped down a dangerous mountain path. The creature seemed to be having the time of its life, happily waving its tentacles around and enjoying the ride. But inside the truck, Coley and Meredith were terrified. The monster drove wildly through the trees before finally bringing the truck into an open field. Coley immediately jumped out and angrily shouted at the truck. Meredith became even more confused. He realized how insane the whole situation sounded, so he finally decided to show her the truth. "Look underneath the truck," he said. The moment Meredith saw the monster's eyes, she screamed and fell backward in fear. Strangely, the creature looked frightened of her too. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Coley reassured her that the creature would not hurt anyone. Afterward, he dropped Meredith off at her house and left the monster inside the truck. But then, he discovered something important. Whenever the creature couldn't see what was in front of it, it stopped moving. That idea gave him a new plan. He modified the truck and created special blinds for the monster so its speed could be controlled. While working on it, he noticed how the creature's tentacles rotated the axle. That gave him another idea. Maybe the monster itself could become the truck's power source. The next morning, Meredith went to see him and brought some food. When she arrived, she was shocked to discover that Coley had removed the engine entirely and placed the creature inside the truck instead. He climbed into the truck for a test drive, and the monster powered the vehicle like a living engine. The car was gliding through the mountains so smoothly with the power of the creature, it felt like it was moving on butter. But Meredith started thinking that the creature probably missed its home. They couldn't keep it with them forever. Coley didn't want to accept that idea. Instead, he happily took selfies with his new friend. But then, they realized it was their responsibility to return the creature to its home. They first stopped at a gas station, but Coley couldn't find the correct opening to fill the truck with fuel. He was nervous too, worried he might accidentally pour gasoline into the wrong hole. The situation became even more awkward when Coley's wealthy classmates showed up at the gas station and started making fun of his truck. But the moment the creature suddenly made the sound of a sports car engine, everyone was left stunned. After driving a little farther, Coley realized something was wrong because the creature was driving the car like a 5-year-old child. Meredith then figured out that it was probably because of the gasoline Coley had given the monster. Maybe some kind of chemical reaction had been triggered inside it. The car sped down the highway, smashing into other vehicles along the way. The squid-like monster began trying to take control of the truck with its massive tentacle. The girl became terrified, breathing heavily, like she was about to pass out. The truck eventually crashed into a used car dealership, where a salesman was trying to scam an elderly couple. Suddenly, the truck came flying in from behind, crushing several cars as it barreled forward. It slammed into a vehicle that was loaded with cans of paint. When the shop owner turned around, he looked like a complete clown, covered in paint, while they managed to escape before the police arrived. The two of them drove the truck to Teravac's mining site. There, Coley reunited with his father, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. His father brought them into his trailer and finally explained what had happened that night. That was when Coley realized the creature had come from deep beneath the earth. But during all of this, his father had secretly informed security about their location. They had been searching for him since the previous night. Coley never expected that kind of betrayal from his own father. A fight broke out, and things got even worse when Burke started pulling him aside. Watching all of this made the monster furious. It sat inside the truck, growling aggressively. Everyone's attention shifted toward the truck, and Coley used the distraction to break free. He quickly told the girl to get inside the vehicle. At that moment, the creature started spinning the truck in circles. Burke immediately realized the monster was hiding inside. The men rushed forward, trying to stop the truck. Coley somehow managed to climb back inside as well. He drove straight toward his father's office and smashed the entire place to pieces with the truck. They were just about to escape when the sheriff spotted them and instantly realized Coley was about to cause serious trouble. Soon, all the security vehicles began chasing the truck. Coley sped through the downtown streets, but Burke and his guards were getting dangerously close. To escape, he steered the truck into a narrow alley. Thanks to the monster's incredible strength, they managed to make it through. Burke, however, crashed into a dumpster and got stuck, allowing them to run toward the exit. They were almost free when Coley's stepfather suddenly spotted them and started chasing after them. Once again, he accelerated the truck and drove into another alley. By the time his stepfather reached the spot, he was shocked to see that Coley had mysteriously vanished. He had no idea the truck was actually hidden directly above him, and using that trick, they escaped once again. But their problems were far from over. Burke tracked the truck down again and forced them toward a dead end. He was right behind them when Coley finally activated one of the truck's hidden feature. The sides of the truck opened up, and the vehicle began climbing straight up the side of a building. Burke was completely stunned. Now the truck was tearing through every law of science and physics, driving across buildings and windows as if gravity didn't exist. Finally, the two of them managed to bring the truck back down onto the road. Coley desperately wanted to get out of there, but then he realized the enemy was still right behind him. This time, he drove the truck toward the railroad tracks. At that exact moment, a massive train was approaching the intersection. No matter what, he was determined to escape. Just like something straight out of Fast and Furious, he slammed the truck toward the track. Watching him drive, it almost felt like Dominic Toretto himself had taken over. He launched the truck over the train's cargo cars and successfully made it to the other side. Overcome with excitement, Coley started drifting the truck, leaving everyone else behind in a cloud of dust. After escaping, they drove the truck to a cabin that belonged to the girl's father. For safety, they decided to stay there for the night, and Coley thanked the creature for saving their life. Later that night, Coley and Meredith sat beside the fire and talked. For the first time, they genuinely tried to understand each other. Eventually, while thinking about what his father had done, Coley sat inside the truck and quietly broke down in tears. Seeing him upset, the monster gently touched him with his tentacles, almost as if it was trying to comfort him. Then the creature drove the truck toward the lake before stepping out and slipping directly into the water. Coley was shocked to see that the creature glowed even brighter underwater. He thanked it once again for saving his life so many times and promised that he would make sure it got back home safely. Meanwhile, Jim had started experimenting on the creatures they had captured. He explained to Tennyson that the animals were highly intelligent. Because of their advanced minds, they could learn almost anything very quickly. But Tennyson had no interest in any of that. He only cared about profiting from the mining operation. He ordered poison to be dumped into the underground water system, so every one of the creatures would die. He also blackmailed the scientist into cooperating with him. The captured creature realized its life was in danger and began crying loudly for help. Because of those cries, the creature outside was finally able to locate them after hearing its voice. The next morning when Coley woke up, he discovered that the monster and the truck were both gone. He wondered why the creature had suddenly left. Luckily, his phone had been left inside the truck, and the girl was able to track its location through the device. Without wasting any time, the two of them headed straight there. They were stunned when they discovered that the creature had returned to the Terravex headquarters. Sneaking in through the back entrance, they found their truck parked in the yard, but the creature was nowhere to be seen. They decided to search the building and entered through the basement area. Inside the laboratory, they found huge containers holding tentacled monsters. Suddenly, they heard loud banging noises coming from outside the wall. Again and again. They realized the creature was trying to break through the wall to save its friends. At that moment, the security guards were alerted. The guards rushed inside and started shooting at the monsters. One of the creatures collapsed unconscious onto the floor. Coley stared at it in shock before the guards grabbed him and took him to meet Tennyson for the first time. Tennyson forcibly deleted every photo of the creature from their phone. Before the security guards could throw them out of the building, he warned them to forget everything they had seen. Just as they were being escorted outside, the scientist Jim suddenly stepped in. He claimed that his boss still needed them for one more job. Jim secretly revealed that he also wanted to stop his boss from killing the creature. He promised that he would help them however he could. Coley realized that if they wanted to save the monster, they would need more cars. Quietly, he and his friends went to one of his classmates' house. While the classmate was busy playing video games, they stole his car. At the same moment, his girlfriend walked up to the window and witnessed everything. But she didn't say anything to her boyfriend because she was also crazy about her hero. However, they still needed another truck for the second monster. So Coley decided to visit his friend Sam. Sam's father owned a large car dealership, and after hearing about the monsters, he happily agreed to help. Coley picked the best truck in the garage and started modifying it for the monster. Working together through the night, they managed to get everything ready by morning. Meanwhile, Jim was carefully keeping an eye on the monsters. He noticed they were being loaded into a semi-truck. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he hijacked the truck and drove it away from the driver. According to their plan, he brought the truck to the parking lot of the car dealership and released all the monsters. Coley was overjoyed to see Creech again. Creech immediately went over to the other creatures and hugged them. Their happiness knew no bounds. Watching them together, Coley and his friend realized that they were actually a family that had been separated during the mining operation. Soon, the larger creatures climbed into their trucks, and the group decided they had to send the tentacled monsters back home. They drove off-road toward the mining site, but Burke and his men quickly tracked down their location and came after them. The enemies began surrounding them from all sides and started firing at Jim's vehicle, but the female creature rammed into the attackers to protect him, then grabbed the enemy trucks and hurled them into the air, instantly disabling the shooter. Coley realized they couldn't outrun the enemy in an open field, so he led everyone toward a dense forest. They managed to avoid the obstacles ahead with the monsters' help, and by using their suspension springs, the trucks leaped over the trees. Around the same time, Sheriff Rick learned what was happening and immediately decided to head there. He saw his stepson, Coley, trying to escape from Tennyson's thugs. Driving at full speed, the sheriff tried to save him, but the officer suddenly crashed into Burke's vehicle, heavily damaging it. The enemy took advantage of the situation and started pushing the police car toward a cliff, causing Rick to fall into the ravine. The police vehicle was completely destroyed, forcing him to continue on foot. Burke then slammed into Coley's monster truck, throwing it off balance, and Coley ended up hanging from the door. But at the last second, Creech grabbed him with a tentacle and pulled both him and the truck safely back onto the road. The group continued toward the mining site and soon spotted a chemical truck. Jim immediately realized it contained poison meant to kill all the creatures. The team began chasing the truck, but they were suddenly forced to stop after getting trapped in a snare set by the enemy. Now there was no way out because the monsters were terrified of fire. They survived on petroleum, making flames extremely dangerous for them. Just as everyone was trying to figure out what to do next, a massive mining vehicle suddenly charged into the area. It smashed through the enemy trucks, sending them flying, while the attackers ran for their lives. It turned out Rick had finally decided to help Coley. He lowered the back section of the joint truck to create a ramp, so the monster trucks could escape through it. One by one, they sped up the ramp and made a massive jump, but now they were were rapidly falling down the mountainside. Somehow the monsters managed to keep both themselves and the vehicles under control. Eventually they all made it safely to the bottom and quickly resumed chasing the poison truck. At the same time, Coley seized an opportunity, climbed onto a large truck, and flipped the entire vehicle over. But they soon realized another truck had already arrived, and the men inside were preparing to release the poison. They immediately rushed toward the pumps, but Burke shoved Coley to the ground. He didn't want the monsters to escape. Seeing this, Jim and Meredith ran toward the machinery and forced all the workers to evacuate. They quickly tried to shut down the pumps, but soon realized it was already too late, because the pressure wasn't dropping no matter what they did. Creech slowly flipped the truck around and launched a direct attack on the enemy, but the enemy proved too powerful. It started pushing Coley down into a massive pit, while the monster kept fighting with everything it had. In the end, the monster climbed onto the enemy's truck as it tried to run him over, but they were forced back again, and Coley told the monster to leave. Creech still refused to give up and grabbed Burke's truck, hurling it into the air. The truck crashed directly into the giant pumps, releasing all the pressure and causing the enemy to suffer from his own poison. The girl saw that Coley was in danger, but before she could do anything, he fell into the huge pit and disappeared underwater. Luckily, the squid monster saved Coley and carried him, along with the wrecked truck, safely back to shore. It was then revealed that many more monsters lived beneath the water, and they came forward to thank him for saving their life. Coley said goodbye to his monster friend as the creature swam back into the water to reunite with its family. Sometime later, the entire mine was shut down, and the police arrested Tennyson. In the end, Coley finally accepted Rick as his father. Together, they repaired the truck's engine, and the hero drove off with Meredith on a long drive.